Oh, awesome.
Yeah, no, I went down on Sherbrooke Street, and I was out there for
He
that
talks
day,
about
and it
that.
was
Yeah, he talks about that. He
yeah,
said that
it must
it
have been an
was
amazing memory for him.
insane. Yeah. He said that because I always do a breakaway moment. You know, what was that aha moment that led you where you are today? And breakaway hockey, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Uh-huh.
along with draft day, being drafted, those are like his two
Yeah,
big memories. Yeah, that was pretty
that's
cool.
so cool.
Oh, awesome, man. So you're in around San Francisco then?
Yeah, I'm just south of San Francisco, about an hour and a half south, in a beautiful beach town called Santa Cruz.
Oh, I love Santa Cruz.
Yeah,
Oh, my friend, what's the Santa Cruz University?
yeah,
You
it's
walking through the
UC Santa
forest?
Cruz, the banana slugs.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, been there
Yeah,
before. Had a couple fun parties there.
yeah, and it's it was made famous. I'm just going to shut this window to get a little bit
Sure.
of darkness in here. It was made famous by John Travolta's character, of course, because if you remember in Pulp Fiction, he wore a banana slugs T-shirt.
Oh, I did
Remember
not
the
know that.
scene where they scene? Hold on, let me just do this.
Oh, where he had to get
Okay.
the t-shirts because his other shirt he was in a t-shirt.
Yeah, they had to clean. They had
Yeah.
to clean the dead guy out of the back of the
Yeah.
car,
Yeah.
and then he had to get Quentin Tarantino's T-shirts. And apparently, this is the story around town. Who knows if it's bullshit? Apparently, at the time, Tarantino was dating a chick who either was going to or was a graduate of UC Santa Cruz. And if you remember, that Banana Slugs T-shirt is about as ugly as a T-shirt can
Yeah.
be, and that's what they put Travolta in. And everybody who fucking comes to Santa Cruz has to buy a Banana Slugs T-shirt.
Well, the next time I get out to the West Coast again, so I grew up in Huntington,
Oh
down
wow!
south. Lived up north in Sacramento for a little while before I came back and forth out here to Missouri. Came back and forth. Met my
How many
girlfriend.
fucking
Stayed.
people move from California to Missouri,
Hey,
Jamie?
I am telling you, I am so much happier out here.
No kidding. Why is that?
Well, I not a big fan of crowds. I
Yeah.
had to go to New York last year for a client thing, and oh, I couldn't wait to get out of there. But like, so people ask, "Where do you live?" And I say, "Well, if you go to the middle of nowhere, hang a quick right, that's me. If we have 4 or 5 people at the stoplight, it's a busy day."
Yeah, I know how you feel, and I feel that way the older I get. Actually, if the more people that are doing it, the less I want to be near it.
Yeah, Santa Cruz, it's a pretty cool spot. I love that place.
It's for me and my wife Carrie, it's really got everything because we both work in Silicon Valley. Although, like I said, I'm mostly retired. Her family's in San Jose, so we're pretty close to them. Just over the hill, and so there's this whole world, Silicon Valley and San Francisco, that's incredible. But the Santa Cruz Mountains do a great job of kind of keeping everybody away.
Yeah.
And so we have this little beach town of, I don't know, about 50,000 people, and you know what it's like. And Santa Cruz is the most self-referential place I've ever been, Jamie. I mean, it doesn't give a fuck about the rest of the world. It really doesn't. It's its own little thing. It cares about itself and nothing else.
Hmm.
And most importantly, it's a state of mind. I mean, everybody's here is nice. Everybody says good morning. You can't. Nobody honks. You don't fucking honk. We don't speed. Bikes have the right of way throughout the entire county.
Oh,
Like
I
it's
love
just
that.
very. And everybody's here because they chose something different. They didn't. This is not. Nobody moves here for a career or to make money, right?
Right.
They're here because they love the ocean. They love the vibe. They love all of it. There's a huge amount of creativity, and it's the birthplace of CrossFit, and we got more yoga studios and CrossFits and pot stores than you can fucking shake a stick at, and so everybody's doing something athletic. Everybody's smoking pot. Everybody's having a good time. It's just that kind of a place, right?
I love it, man. This is great.
Yeah, you'd fit right in. You got the look too.
Yeah, it's
I take
pretty.
you to Felton, introduce you to the guy that runs the Bigfoot Museum, and you guys would get along great.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I would come back there. I'm coming back for the. Are you going to podcast movement by any chance?
I am not. No.
No. Yeah, I'm gonna head out there for podcast movement and
Don't
then go
go to
down to
those
San
things.
Diego.
Is it worth going to?
I yes. For in my
Why? What do
opinion,
you
yes.
get out of it?
I
What do
finally
you
get
get out
to
of it?
meet all these people that I talk to, learn new things. I just being around other people in the podcast industry is pretty dang cool. It's a good group of people. Like I've never, coming from a corporate background, I was in sales, very competitive, kind of backstabbing. Everybody needs their numbers. It's just not me. It took me 12 years to realize that, but that's not me. And in this industry, it's kind of weird. You could have, a competitive podcast, show vying for downloads and things like that to help out. And your biggest competitor in podcasting will be your biggest advocate and best person to help you out, and you can trade tricks or strategies or ideas, and everybody's so cool. I just really love it, and everybody's super
I
approachable.
do love that. We
It's
started Legends and Losers in February, and so it's really only 6 months old, and we've taped about 60-ish episodes and dropped a little over 40. We do 2 episodes a week. But to your point, I've been amazed at how awesome everybody in this industry has been.
Yeah.
Um,
How did you get into
I'm
podcasting?
Is a great question. So, my buddy Colin and co-host Colin had wanted me to do it for a very long time and wanted to do it together. And I didn't want to do it mostly because I couldn't figure out how to do it and not be a douchebag Kardashian. There's this whole self-promotional part of this stuff that I really don't like. It's the same thing with being an author, and so there's this look at me, I'm going to produce a fucking book of selfies and all the social media look at me shit, and I fucking hate all that shit. And like my friend Eric Weinmeier, the extreme blind athlete who summited Everest, said, the world doesn't need more bullshit. And I just thought, I don't want to be that guy. I'm not like that. And I had retired. I retired about a year ago, and I was just sort of fading into the background. But what happened was the response to Play Bigger was huge, and everybody said, they wanted more. And then I started to think about, well, maybe I could do this my way, and I don't have to be a Kardashian. And so I just do it the way I want to do it, and the way Colin and I want to do it. And we promote the show, but we're not, we're not trying to put more bullshit into the world. And for me, Legends and Losers is a labor of love. If it never produces a dime, it doesn't matter. We've been incredibly lucky to have had a unbelievable response. And the book has just exploded in the last 6 months since we started the show. And so I think it's helping. And so that's really, really cool. And so now I can't imagine my life without it, Jamie.
So I have to tell you, so Play Bigger
Yeah.
has completely rocked my world.
Wow.
Completely. Like, we're creating a category. We're creating a business because of reading that book.
Oh my God. I can't believe you're saying that. Thank you. That's so great. Tell me more.
So I'm really big into, obviously, we do websites and we do branding, we do all that kind of cool stuff. And then we always try and look for a way, because it's tech, right? You always got to be on top of that. It's always changing. It's super fast. And right now, with the APIs opened up on Facebook and within the next 2 to 6 months on LinkedIn, chatbots are huge. We're seeing conversion rates we've never seen before, 90+% open rates,
Wow.
60, 70, 80% click-through rates. Insane. So
Because of the chatbots?
because of chatbots, yeah. So we've started
Wow.
working with chatbots, and we've already got a couple deals, and we're really building out chatbots, and we're animating them, right? So we came up with a new technology term category because of Play Bigger. I mean, we're so pumped, man. So we are not doing chatbots. It's not a human. It's not a robot. It's that third way, right? And we're calling it RET, relationship, experience, technology. We're
I like
creating
it.
a brand new category. I can't tell you how pumped I am right now.
Well, and I really applaud you for doing that, Jamie. The one of the main reasons, and there was a bunch, that I wanted to write Play Bigger was just way too many great ideas, great innovations, and of course great entrepreneurs end up on the cutting room floor because they never find their place in the world. They don't find a spot in the market because the entrepreneur, whether they realize it or not, leaves that up to the market to figure out. They think that by talking about features and capabilities that the world will put the rest of it together. And sometimes that works, Twitter by way of example, but most of the time it doesn't. And so I know this sounds corny, but it is crushing to me to see great innovation, great entrepreneurs with really great ideas fail because they get compared to this legacy thing that
Mm.
people are not interested in.
I yes, yes, I agree with everything. It's fantastic. See, here's the thing that is so incredible about this category design, because you can take something that has, um, even something as relatively new as chatbots and what they're doing. You're already hearing people. I'm already getting feedback like, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting spammed by these bots," and da 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 da. And as soon as marketers get a hold of this stuff, that's what's gonna happen. It's inevitable. We screw it
You
up
mean
for
they're going to
everybody.
over and abuse it and treat people
Yeah.
like shit with it and make
Yeah.
people hate it? That's what we're going to
Oh,
do?
that's happening now, and so that's why I'm so, gosh, for the lack of a better term, bullish. I'm so huge and motivated on this because I want to create a new feeling, a new vibe for it, and I think this RET is, because of Play Bigger, is going to really separate. And literally, I think we're starting our own category. I literally
Fucking
think
A.
we're starting it.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And that's why, I spent 2 years, I'll speak for myself. Obviously, I had three co authors who are incredibly smart guys. But for me personally, the experience of writing Play Bigger, Jamie, was I spent 2 years of my life pouring the better part of 30 years of my life into those 270 pages, all in the hopes that one day you would say that.
Well, I got to introduce you to my better buddy Peter. I mean, he's oh my gosh, he's talking about the lightning strike and the oh man, he's motivated. Yeah, we him both him, myself, and we're getting our brand strategist Jared to read it as well. It's awesome.
Awesome. I'd be very curious to see how Jared thinks about it. We just created a special asset that we're trying to figure out what to do with, but it's about a hour and a half long show. We're having it transcribed and we're having it sort of turned into I guess you could call it a long blog on personal category design.
Mm.
And the reason we wanted to do that was everybody's into branding, everybody's into personal branding. And what they don't get is that categories make brands, not the other way around. And a brand strategy without a category strategy is a giant fucking waste of time and money. And I love branding, don't get me wrong. I'm a 3-time public company CMO. I know a fucking thing or two about branding. But here's a simple example I give people. Okay, so it's all about branding, right? So Google has a legendary brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says right.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so how come when one of the most legendary brands on planet Earth went into the social networking category, they had their ass handed to them? And the reason for that is there's a category king who designed that category called Facebook. And so Google is one of the most powerful brands in the world. It is getting close to Coca-Cola. And yet even that brand can't make a dent where there's an existing category king in a giant category. And so the reason Google's brand matters is because search matters, and now mobile with Android matters. That's why it matters. And it only matters in those categories because outside of those categories, where there's other category kings, they can't compete just like everyone else. And so categories make brands. And so people who do branding in the absence of category design are literally lighting their wallet on fire.
Mm.
If you do, by the way, the flip side is also true, Jamie. If you do category design with branding and the two are tied together and you get your point of view really tight and all that good shit, now you have an unfair. It's like you're competing with a weapon nobody ever saw. It's like you developed guns and no one else has guns.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it could be said for the same thing for Microsoft and Bing, spending millions and millions
Exactly.
and millions and still only having what 10, 9, 10, 11% of the
Yeah,
Sure.
$20 billion, or was it 20? I think it was,
Is
yeah.
is
Like,
yeah,
okay, well,
it was a lot.
it was a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, that's I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges people face too. And I hope this is cool if we could just jump in and keep going right now because this is super motivating to me. I mean,
Yeah, we
I'm
can go
blown
as long
away.
as
So
it's my
what
life.
this so the see the what I think the biggest challenge is for a lot of people is when they start something like this, what you just said about the branding and brand perspective. By the way, that's one of the things we're doing in chatbots is we're changing the word branding. So again, thank you. You're I'm telling you, you completely changed the direction of our thought process and business. So oh man, blown away.
Well, as my friend Scott, who's the founder of a great digital marketing company in the Cleveland area called Fathom, he says what category design is really about is it's about how to design your niche and get nouveau riche.
Yeah, that we'll see.
So I hope this.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I hope everything you're doing fulfills on that. That you define a whole new niche and it takes your business to a whole new level.
That's the goal. That is the goal, obviously. But I think what our biggest challenge is, and I think this is will probably resonate with a lot of people, is that they don't know right when to pivot or when to change or you think, wow, what a great idea, this is going to be awesome, but they really don't know if you haven't done the proper research or the category design, as you say. That's the biggest challenge right there.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And people ask all the time, well, so how do I know? To your point around pivoting, how do I know how much life the category has? Like, when do I need to shift to a new category? And there's sort of two components to that. One is categories live as long as the world agrees about the problem and the solution.
Mm.
So, for example, in the tech space, for years, people have said, email fucking sucks. We got to get rid of email. And every once in a while, a new company comes out and says, we're the replacement for email. Well, the reason that's never happened is because no one's reframed the problem. And so as long as the problem is asynchronous text communication, then email persists, right?
Right.
Now it looks like maybe Slack's trying to get there. But if you look at maybe a better example, you look at Microsoft Office. It's a 25-year run at 90% market share.
It's insane.
Well, and Google gives away Google Docs free, and no one cares, right? And so until the problem called word processing, spreadsheets, and presentations, until that gets reimagined, and therefore there's room for a new kind of solution, Microsoft is going to continue to have a category king position there. And so the only time you really need to pivot is when the problem is no longer resonating. If the problem resonates, it's going to live forever. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to expand your category potential over time, which is a different but very important nuance. But no one's going to get Microsoft, by way of example, with Office until they reimagine the problem.
Mm. Yep. Yeah, that's that's exactly it. So that brings up a good point because having the cojones, I guess you could say, to pivot, that could be that could be not only, I think a lot of people have a challenge with it because pride comes into play and ego comes into play and, hey, this was my idea, this is what I wanted to do moving forward. What advice would you have for someone, that's having a hard time moving forward when they really realize, because they put all that hard work into it? For me, it's not a problem, by the way. I worked very long for 6 months, and we changed on a dime after we read your book.
I love it. I love it. Well, I think it's a couple things. Number one, it takes courage to be legendary, right? And courage, the real definition of courage is the ability to act in the face of fear. And so as an entrepreneur, as an innovator of any kind, we have to have that. The other thing, and it's counterintuitive, which is why category design is such a breakthrough, which is I want to attack an existing market, right? So there's $1 billion being spent in this market, and I'm launching my new carbon-regulator, and I want to go where the money is, right? That logic says that's what there is to do. The opposite is true. Jim Getz, who's the number one investor in the world according to Forbes at Sequoia Capital, he says that if the category exists, we probably won't invest. And that's one of the greatest venture capital firms in history: Apple, Google, Cisco, Oracle, just to name a few, right? More recently, WhatsApp, Palo Alto Networks, Zoom, etc. Right? So Sequoia is no joke. And so you look at that and you go, well, how can that possibly be? You say, oh, what's the size of your market? Fucking zero. What do you mean zero? Are you mental? And that's the whole point, right? Is that it's the companies that change the way we think about a problem and a solution, that open us up to a whole new way of thinking, and then they occupy that space. If you look at the legends, that's what they all did. None of them came out with a Carbondingulator 2.0. That's not what happened. Steve Jobs would not let his shit be compared to what came before. And look, Bill Gates launched the tablet PC in 2001. No one gave a shit. In 2009, he launches iPad, and he says, we are creating a whole new category of device. Now, let me tell you why. And he tells the world how he wants them to think about this innovation, and he creates the space in our minds to think about it the way he wants us to. And when we do, ba-boom, a multi-billion-dollar category, and what inside of Apple today would be a Fortune 500 company gets born. And so my point is, the legends understand this, and they know, I don't want my shit to be compared to what came before. I want everybody else to be compared to me, not the other way around.
Exactly. How do you get there from zero? Like, how do you get there? Obviously that's the magic question, the $1 billion question, but there's so many people that call themselves entrepreneurs and startups, and I'm frustrated calling myself an entrepreneur, but there's all you need to do today is get some hosting and pop up a site, and all of a sudden you're an entrepreneur. And there's all these people, I'll take WordPress, or there's all these people that are, whatever it is they're doing, coaching or whatever it is. And it seems like a lot of the same things over and over and over again. And the people that are maybe doing really well are the people that were either the early adopters or the people that have come up with solutions, like for us, podcast production companies. There's everybody out there, they have all these things going on. They're doing Google Docs and Dropbox. And I said, well, with the help of my girlfriend, because she helps me out here, we created a brand new software, and we streamlined the system, and it's first to market. There's nobody else out there that does it. And it's zero. And people are like, that's crazy, because podcast producers, there's like maybe 100 companies out there. There's nothing out there. But I tell you, we have producers out there that are producing 600 episodes a week. People don't know this. So how do people learn about making themselves different and making themselves create a category? How do they go about doing that? What would you recommend? How about this, the first step they could take in doing that?
It's such a great question. The first step is a very simple but powerful one, which is, what's the insight? What's the aha? And that gets you to the problem. And in Play Bigger, my dear friend Anne Miracle, who Forbes called the most powerful woman in startups, and her episode of Legends and Losers is one of our most popular. She was one of our very early guests. We're going to have her back. She's an absolute genius, Stanford professor, PhD, unbelievable. So here's what she says, and we talk about it in Play Bigger. She said the insight of the aha comes in sort of one of two places, or one of two ways. The first one is, if you will, an insight around a known problem. So if you think about, Anne is one of the early investors in Lyft. Mm-hmm. And if you think about Lyft, the problem called, if you will, personal transportation, Jamie, is a well-known, well-understood problem, right? There's buses, there's cars, there's trains, there's subways, there's all the things we understand. And those guys, and of course Uber, reimagine that problem called personal transportation, how do I get from A to B, in the context of the new technology and the new generation of people using that technology. And so they take an existing known problem, personal transportation, and they redesign it in the context of something that is now possible. In this case, the cloud and, of course, mobile phones, right? Mm-hmm. And so today, of course, we have this magical capability, which is we press a button on our fucking phone and somebody great comes and gets us. It's amazing, right? So that's an aha around a known problem that gets redesigned for one reason or another. The second kind of aha or insight is around a unknown problem. That is to say, a problem you and I didn't know we had. And a great example of that, and we talk about it in the book. It's such a fun example. And my co-author, Kevin Maney, who's just a fucking incredible guy, Newsweek, written a whole bunch of great books. He's the only reason Play Bigger ever came out, by the way.
Oh, wow.
He gets all the credit in the world. But a story that he found and we share in the book is about Clarence Birdseye. And I don't know if you remember this, but in the 1920s, 1930s, he's a young boy, and he's in love with what a lot of young boys are in love with today, which of course is taxidermy. Oh, come on, that was fucking funny. Yeah. Anyway, he discovers that the simple part of the story is he finds himself in he finds himself in northern Canada with the Inuit. And he notices that when they catch a fish, if they cook it after they catch it, it tastes one way. And if they throw it on ice, take it to their home or village or wherever, and thaw it, and then cook it later, it pretty much tastes the same. That is to say, it tastes almost fresh when you freeze it. And so he has this insight in the 1920s, 1930s, and he builds an outfit called Birdseye Foods. And he creates a whole new category. At the time, there's two categories of food. There's food, and then there's canned food. And he creates this third category called frozen food. Mm. And in order to do that, he has to teach the world to think about a food problem differently. So if you go and Google early Birdseye ads, what you see is a lot of stuff like, and I forget the exact headlines, but he's evangelizing things like, wouldn't it be wonderful to have frozen pea, or wouldn't it be wonderful to have fresh peas in February? And so he begins to make the lack of fresh food when we want it a problem. Mm. And once the world goes, yeah, hey, fuck, how come we can't have fresh peas in February? Now they have the problem and they want the solution. And he teaches the entire world about this new category of frozen food. And today, of course, it's a multi-billion-dollar category. And to finish the story, in the spirit of what happens to category kings and how unassailable their position could be, guess who's the number one purveyor of frozen food in America today? It's Birdseye.
I was going. Does it start with a B?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's an example of a unknown problem. That is to say, a problem that Clarence saw that you and I didn't, and then he had to educate the world about. And so, to get back to your question, Jamie, for entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter whether it's a known problem redesign or a brand new problem that nobody knows. The process of category design is still the same, which is we need to figure out how we educate the world to think about this problem the way we do, so that they're going to want the solution that we've spent so much time and energy creating, as opposed to what most entrepreneurs do, which is to go, hey, look at these fucking features and look how fast it is and it spins and it does this thing. And the one I hate, and I don't mean to be an asshole, but I don't know if you've seen this ad on TV for the My Pillow guy.
The My Pillow guy? No,
There's this ad on TV. There's this product called My Pillow.
Okay.
And this guy gets on TV, and he's like, yeah, I had these problems sleeping, and I couldn't take it, and so pillows are bullshit, and so I had to invent my own pillow, and look how awesome this pillow is, and this and that, and I built it here in my home state of wherever the fuck he's from, and he's like this CEO, entrepreneur, pitch guy, right? And he does a product demo on his ad, and he says, oh, and if you buy one, I'll give you another one for free, and all this shit. And I look at it. I haven't tried the My Pillow, but let's assume, for sake of example, it's a breakthrough in pillows. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Well, by fucking calling it a pillow, and by going on TV and doing pillow demos, he's fucking way underrunning his category potential. Mm-hmm. And if he had said, hey, in the past, people used to sleep on these fucking things that are a lot like bricks that suck called pillows, and I got this new thing called a carbidingulator, and let me tell you why you should switch from the old way of sleeping to this new way of sleeping. And he actually did category design as opposed to just branding and screaming pillow, pillow, pillow. he would probably have 5x or 10x or 20x the business that he does, and yet he still goes on TV and he does a product demo. And that's the unfortunate thing, because if he had just taken the time to do category design and educate the world to think about it differently, then he'd have a much better business than he has.
I love it. I'm even becoming more clear in the clarity after talking with you. This is amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
I'll give you another one. You want another one right now that's making me fucking crazy?
Yes.
Okay. Tale of two acquisitions. Home Shopping Network just bought QVC for $2 billion, right?
I did.
You
not
saw
know
that, Jamie?
No, I didn't. I didn't
Yeah.
see that.
It's been buried in the news. It just happened, right?
Oh, wow.
And then Amazon, of course, just bought Whole Foods, right? I'm just looking to see what they paid for it.
Yeah, I heard about that, and I also heard about there's another company that's trying to recreate the Whole Foods, because right now Whole Foods is pretty spendy. When you go to Whole Foods, their big thing is it's like a Whole Foods, but for more
not
affordable.
so spendy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about your Whole Foods. Carrie and I, my wife, figure our Whole Foods is about $80-$90 a bag.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
It's spendy. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard this expression. They call it whole check.
Oh yeah.
Take your whole paycheck.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Amazon buys Whole Foods for $13.7 billion, and Home Shopping Network buys QVC for $2 billion. Now, one of these acquisitions is genius, and one of them is mental. The stupid one is Home Shopping Network and QVC. It's like tying two rocks together, hoping they'll float. What you've got is two companies in a dying category consolidating. And guys with spreadsheets put that deal together. And they looked at economies of scale and, quote, synergies, which is business babble for, reductions and firing people and all that stuff. What they didn't do, and this is why I say it was a bad acquisition, is it doesn't reimagine the category. And so everybody said when that happened, oh, they're doing this to compete against Amazon, which I understand. And look, you could argue there's some good thinking behind let's bulk up. Okay, I'll give you that. But you're not reimagining the fucking category. And so I don't care how much bigger you get. Look, Xerox is an awesome company. No one gives a shit. No one cares. Kodak, legendary company. No one gives a shit. Why? Dead categories. And so television shopping is dying as a category. And so what those guys need to do is reimagine their business in the context of a whole new problem and create brand new, net new category potential, not just consolidate on the fucking Titanic, which is what they're doing. Now, Amazon, by way of contrast, is a category king, of course, in multiple categories. We all understand that.
Sure.
Whole Foods is the category designer and category king in that whole new high-end quality, no GMO, never tested on animals, farm to table, all that good shit, right?
Yeah.
So two category kings coming together, and it's very clear that Amazon is going to reimagine what offline and online together in a unified experience looks like for you and I as consumers. It's very clear that's what they're doing. And so what's my point? In one case, you have an acquisition that is consolidation in a dying space, holding on to the way it used to be. And in this case, what you have is two category kings coming together to reimagine something and create brand new category potential and blow us away as consumers, right? Who would you rather be in your business?
Oh, the latter, obviously. Yeah, because you can see they're looking at the future. One of the biggest things that comes to mind when you talk about that is Netflix, right?
Absolutely.
So you had mentioned the Pello guy. Well, I am probably one of a big growing of viewership in that I don't even have cable. I don't have cable television.
Right.
I have Netflix. I have Amazon. I have that kind of stuff, but I don't watch TV. I don't watch news. I hate news. Bums me out. Gets me depressed. So I don't watch it. But I don't have cable anymore. And there's a ton of people that I know that don't have cable. Um,
Well, and with the cable companies are, you see what's going on, right? There's all sorts of consolidation. There's all sorts of stuff going on right now with those guys. And AT&T bought DirecTV a while ago, as you well
mhm.
know. And look at what Verizon's trying to do with content. And so they're all trying to figure this out because I don't know. Did you see maybe 2, maybe even 3 years ago now? Kevin Spacey, just sort of as House of Cards was really taking off,
Mhm.
he gave a speech at a new media conference in Europe. I want to say it was in Scotland.
Hmm.
And that speech was a huge tipping point in the media business. It's very worth watching even today. What he does in the speech is he essentially evangelizes, look, A, give people legendary shit. So create some awesome content. Okay, great. And B, he says, look, I don't understand why people don't get this. The distinction between what's a movie, what's a TV show is completely irrelevant. When we wanted to do House of Cards, we had a story that we wanted to tell. We thought we wanted to tell it over n number of hours. You can call it whatever the fuck you want, but once you create your content, whatever it is, then give it to the world and allow them to decide when they want to watch it, how they want to watch it, on what device they want to watch it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and take all that other bullshit. That's what you fucking need to do. And that speech is 2 or 3 years old. And to your point, um, a lot of people in legacy media don't understand that today.
Mhm. Yep. I'm definitely going to go check that out. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's a great speech.
nobody has time. So if you can come up with anything that can be consumed on demand, whatever that medium is, I think you're already ahead of the game. That's pretty exciting hearing about that Whole Foods thing. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, it's a big, big breakthrough, and a lot of people, I think, don't appreciate how powerful it is unless they look at it with a category design lens. Because
Hmm.
if you look at it from the perspective of here's two category kings who dominate in these gigantic categories with lots and lots of category potential, that is to say, headroom for growth in the markets, and most importantly, if you believe what they believe, and look, they could get it wrong, but if you believe what they believe, which is you got a 1 + 1 = 20 here, they're going to reimagine the digital and physical experience around shopping, obviously for groceries and over time other things. And so if they do that, they will not only monetize, if you'll allow me the jargon, the headroom that is in their current category potentials, which they were going to do as independent companies anyway, but together they should be able to, and look, they could seriously fuck it up, but if they get it right, they should be able to actually, by reimagining both spaces together in a new paradigm, bring something new. And when they do that, it'll be a new category, and it'll create new category potential and new growth. And if they get that right, that'll be exciting. And regardless of whether they get it or right, Jamie, the fucking headset is very different than, oh my God, our industry is consolidating. We don't know what the fuck to do. Let's merge with our number one competitor. Let's pull out a bunch of costs and let's try to squeeze a few more dollars into our EBITDA before we fucking go bankrupt here. That's what those fucking guys are doing.
Yeah, that's good money after bad. That's I appreciate the insight though. I hope that opens up a lot of minds because it's pretty clear on what works, what doesn't with regard to this category design. I wonder if maybe you can tell me a little bit more because I would love to hear what your breakaway moment is about the book and how people can find it and what they can do about Legends and Losers. So where can they find you?
The best place to find me is legendsandlosers.com.
Awesome. And Legends and Losers is I've seen you're getting some pretty cool reviews there and it only been started since February.
Yeah, we're six
Tell
months in.
Yeah.
Hal Elrod, who's the author of one of the most important kind of personal development self-help books of the last 15 or so years, The Miracle Morning, and of course he created a movement, not just an amazing book. And Hal's an amazing guy, and I don't know why he's a fan of the show, but thank God he is. And he had me on his show, and he came out and said that Legends and Losers is going to go down as one of the best podcasts of all time. And then Sabrina Horn, who's one of the grand dames of PR in Silicon Valley, an incredibly respected entrepreneur in her own right, and the advisor to many of the best entrepreneurs of the last 20, 30 years in Silicon Valley. She called us the podcast Silicon Valley needs. So, yeah, and Pat Grady, a partner at Sequoia, just came out and said some unbelievable stuff about us, and yeah, it's been so incredible. It's knocked me over, the response to Legends and Losers.
So what are some of the things that people can get if what can they expect to learn or hear on Legends and Losers?
So Legends and Losers is the show for people who want to design a legendary business and a legendary life. And so the sort of first two big ideas are, number one, that your life and your business are the same fucking thing. There's no such thing. You hear this term work-life balance. Fuck that.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as work-life balance, right? There's
Totally
your life.
agree.
There's Jamie, and Jamie's sometimes with his girlfriend, and Jamie's sometimes doing a podcast, and Jamie's sometimes building RETs and doing stuff. But it's always Jamie. And the thing is, your motivation and my motivation is the same, regardless of whether we're working or playing or somewhere in between. We're the same guy or the same gal, right? And so very rarely do you have authentic, real, no bullshit conversations with business people and entrepreneurs and innovators that's a combination of who they are as a human being and what they do in their work world. And so we try to break that veil. The second one is, I don't know about you, Jamie, but when I hear most, and I'm going to use this word on purpose, interviews with successful people, sometimes they're interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the time what I'm left with is, so for example, we just had the Golden State Warriors win the NBA championship, and we have our hero, Steph Curry, right? And so when I hear Steph interviewed, and I couldn't be a bigger fan, I think he's an incredible young athlete, of course, and you hear him interviewed, and I go, that's interesting and somewhat insightful, but at the end of it, what I'm left with is Steph Curry has this organ next to his spleen called awesome at basketball, and I don't have that. So, well, I think he's cool and all, but it doesn't leave me with anything, because I feel like, oh, he's got this. He's not human. He's not like me. I don't relate to him, right?
Right.
Now, what we try to do on Legends and Losers is break that veil as well. And so, for example, we just had Eric Weinmeier on, the first blind man to summit Everest, first blind man to solo kayak the Grand Canyon, and he's one of the most extraordinary backcountry extreme adventure athletes in the world, regardless of sight or not. And, talking to him, there are moments in his life where he doubts himself. There are moments in his life where he doesn't say the word fraud, but where he says, am I not really the guy that I think I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about that on Legends and Losers. And so what's my point? My point is that people who come on Legends and Losers, no matter how successful they are, just because of the name of the show, and we have our own point of view, which is you can't be a legend without being a loser, right? We all learn so much more from losing than we do from winning, but nobody ever talks about that shit. And so on Legends and Losers, we do. And then I guess the third big differentiator is we're not an interview show. We're a dialogue show. The experience I want our guests to have is that they're sitting down having a beer with me or a beer with me and Colin. And the experience I want our listeners and fans to have is they just rolled into IHOP at 3 a.m. on a Saturday. They're kind of drunk. They want to sober up a little, got to get some eggs and bacon in the system or something to stabilize the patient. And behind you, in the booth behind you, you start eavesdropping on this conversation, and it drills into your ear, and you can't stop listening. And so we try to create an eavesdropping experience. So, for example, we never acknowledge the audience on Legends and Losers. We just talk like a couple of guys or gals having a conversation. And so I think, because this is what people tell us, is that eavesdropping experience. And then I guess maybe there's one other thing, which is I think a lot of podcasters are still confused, and I don't mean this in a shitty way. I think they're confused about podcasting versus radio versus TV.
Yep.
And here's what I mean. I'm a huge fan of, by way of example, The Daily Show.
Okay.
Well, when someone goes on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah as a guest, you get 4 minutes with them. Podcasting's not radio, is not TV. You and I can have a 3-hour conversation in a podcast if we want.
Right.
And so here's what I believe. I believe that the more we live in a 140 character world full of fucking emojis and infographics and bullshit. And by the way, some of that stuff is great and fun, and I like it too.
Sure.
But let me say it this way: the more Kardashianization there is, the more craving for authentic, raw, real, no bullshit there is. And so what podcasting allows is a platform for that. And so we try to take advantage of the medium. And so, hey, sometimes Legends and Losers is 50 minutes, and sometimes it's 3 fucking hours. Because what we try to do is we try to have the conversation. What I always share with our guests as we're going live is to say, hey, look, let's have the conversation we're meant to have. And away we go. And so we don't edit the show very much, and it's just that kind of, and sometimes it's an hour, and sometimes it's 45 minutes, and sometimes it's an hour and a half, and it's completely unpredictable, and I have ADD, and so we dance around, and we we chase zebras down rabbit holes, and all kinds of things like that, right? And the feedback we get from people, Jamie, is that the ability to sit there and just have that awesome conversation drill into your ear that you could never otherwise experience is a very cool thing. And it's a very different thing than radio or television. And so I guess my point is, the other thing we try to do on Legends and Losers is exploit the media for the opportunity that it provides to have unbounded dialogues around things that matter.
Well, I love it. There's so many people that get into podcasting, and me included. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I had no idea. I was told, hey, you got to start a podcast. And I said, okay, start a podcast. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know format. And I worked in radio. So I thought maybe that would help me out. Did nothing. And you're right. It gets so canned, and person that loves me the most, my girlfriend, will tell me, Jamie, that show sucked. That was terrible, because it feels like it's so forced sometimes, and you lose that conversation, even though the goal is to, hey, have a beer, have a coffee with someone, and just kind of conversate back and forth and talk about stuff. I love the way that we started this interview. I didn't go through my normal introduction and all that kind of stuff. We just kind of chatted, and it's refreshing.
And you and I are doing exactly what happens on Legends and Losers, right? Because this is also what I want to do with you. And so I want to have a real conversation with you. And the thing is, the minute you say to somebody, oh, it's an interview, okay, I get my interview face on, what are my talking points? I get what are my key messages? What was my media training again? And okay, I got to say this. And so that happens with the guest. The other thing that I find, I don't know if you find this, and I don't mean this in a shitty way. I just wish people would be more authentic. There are people on radio, TV, and of course in podcasting who play a character. And I get that, but I think we're living in a time where people crave authenticity and things that are real and things that are no bullshit. And sure, when you hit record, am I trying to put forward my best self? Of course I am. So we all are.
Sure.
But we're not doing a fucking interview. I'm not playing a character called Christopher Lochhead. And I don't get that you're playing a character called Jamie J, right?
Nope.
And so whether it's on TV, radio, or podcast, when people are playing a character and they have a shtick, particularly on podcasts, the medium allows you to be yourself and allows for unbounded dialogue. And so why not take advantage of unbounded dialogue and authenticity as opposed to and I put on all this bullshit.
I love that. The other day I was talking to a kid that had me on, and he said, okay, so are you ready to go? And I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. And he's like, welcome to the show. And I was like, whoa, blew me back. And one of the best.
Yeah, who are you, man? I was just talking to some guy, and some other guy. You know who a lot of these guys sound like to me? They sound like 1970s and 1980s game show hosts. Hi, my name is Fred Douchebag, and welcome to another episode of Torturing You with Douchebags. It's like, oh, fuck, here we
Yeah,
go.
1970s DJ. Hey, welcome to the show where we're burning the stacks and racks and coming to you live, large and in charge.
And look, there are some guys who have a bit of a shtick that's really fun, and the
Yeah,
audience is kind of in on it and all that, and they really make it work, and it's authentic to their personality. So, hey, if that's the kind of podcaster you are, I don't mean to be critical of that. What I'm being
yeah,
critical of is when you do it to the expense of authenticity, because I think podcasting allows us to do whatever we want and be whoever we want. And I think podcast consumers, because I was a huge super consumer of podcasts for years before I got into podcasting. I love the medium.
yeah.
I love, even as a kid, as corny as it sounds, Jamie, I loved talk radio. I mean, as a 6, 8-year-old boy, I can remember listening to talk radio. My mom loved it, and so it was on, and I got into it. And I loved the discussions and the political debates, and even as a kid.
Well, I
And
loved,
so,
and that's the rest of the story. That's how I started out.
why did that capture your attention?
I just loved it. I loved the stories that he told. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Paul Harvey. I mean,
yeah, of course.
it's amazing if you can go back and listen to some of his stories today. What is happening today? He talks about way back then. And sure, I know there's a way you can mix and match and make things fit into what his conversation was, but still, it was very entertaining. I just loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, and I also think being a dialogue show host is very different than being an interview show host.
Mm.
And I think a lot like category design, frankly, entrepreneurs with categories make an unconscious, uneducated, unknown decision that they don't realize to position inside of an existing space. They just do that. We're a restaurant, we're opening an Italian restaurant. That's what we are. And they don't, to your point, they don't get to their RET to distinguish themselves from a chatbot, right? They don't think about it that way. And it's an unconscious decision. I think in podcasting, a lot of people make an unconscious decision that we're going to be an interview show that ends up feeling a lot like a interview TV or radio show.
Right.
And they don't ask the question, well, what's possible with this medium? And we made a decision that we were going to be a new category of show that we call a dialogue show, because we wanted to be long form. We didn't take the advice. Everybody told me that we had to have a 20-minute show because the average commute is 20 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever it is, and people have to be able to listen to the show in 20 minutes. Well, I don't know how long you and I have been talking, but I bet you it's about an hour, and
Yep.
like we're
51
getting warmed
minutes.
up.
Yeah.
I don't know how long you want to go, but I mean, if you I could hang out with you for a very long time, right?
Yeah.
and so I think when you take that interview mindset out and you say, hey, we're two guys, two gals, guy and a gal, whatever it is, and we're having a beer, we're having a coffee, and we're going to talk about shit that we think's important, and we're going to have some fun, and we're going to chase some zebras down rabbit holes, and we're going to do all that stuff. And as a result of allowing ourselves the freedom and the vulnerability to do that, hopefully somebody will give a shit and want to listen. That's very, very different than, and now what are the 3 value things, Jamie, here that you need to tell everybody about how they can, it's a different thing.
When you're saying this, you're almost describing my format, and it just.
I'm sorry.
No.
I don't mean that.
No. This is, and I'm taking this with because I am probably one of those people in this category of interview formats, and we do what we taught without really going outside of it. And I mean, holy crap, you authored an amazing book, you have an incredible show, you're coming up with a new category within podcasting that is still early. It's been around since 2004, but still early. So it's just a totally new way. And this is what people need to be thinking about in every aspect of what it is that they do. And I don't mean just business. I mean in life, if you can think about it this way. I mean, you're blowing my mind right now. And it's just, It's insane. I have so many ideas right now that I want to start implementing to make things better. And yeah, the Legends and Losers is definitely going on rotation for sure.
Well, I hope you get addicted. For what it's worth, I am. You know, the funny thing to me about Legends Losers, this is going to make me sound like a dork, but I'll share it with you anyway. Legends and Losers is the show I want to listen to. I'm the biggest fan of Legends and Losers. And the only thing I was bummed about with doing this with you at the time that we booked it today is we just dropped a 2-part episode with the legendary category designer and author of this great book called Super Consumers. His name's Eddie Yoon.
Oh,
And we just did you? Are you going to have him on? Did you have him on?
Already interviewed him. He's not published yet, but yes, he's amazing.
No, his book's out. Super Consumers is out.
Oh, no, I'm saying, but I haven't. His show is not live yet.
Oh, show's not published. Yeah. Well, we dropped his Legends and Losers today, and it's, I think, a 2.5-hour episode. And we're now starting to cut those in two to make it a little easier for people to consume. But the only bummer is we dropped the show just before you and I were scheduled to talk, and so I'm like, fuck, I now need to carve out time because I listen to Legends and Losers like a fan. I like to have a beer normally in the later part of the afternoon before dinner. We have a beautiful garden, and we have 6 incredible daughters, as my wife calls them. They're our hens, our chickens, and they're awesome pets and incredible creatures. And what I like to do in the afternoon is late afternoon, get all my shit done, go into the garden, maybe do some garden work, help Carrie out because she tells me what to do. I don't know shit about gardening. And I stick one earbud in my ear, and I crack open a beer and throw that into a frosty mug, and I do some shit around the garden. I play with my baby dinosaurs. I have fun with my wife, and I listen to Legends and Losers, and I listen like a fan.
That's awesome.
And so I think if you can create something that you love, that's where it starts. And if anyone else loves it, that's a bonus.
Oh man, that's fantastic. I don't think that's dorky at all. I love that. I love that you like your show. It's incredible. I love this whole. It's just
And I don't listen to it like it's my show. I forget that and the cool thing is I don't know what the time delay is for you, but we are generally 6 to 8 weeks ahead because we drop 2 shows a week, and we just have lots of people who want to come on, and so there's a lag. And I can hide my own Easter eggs, and so by the time the show comes out, I don't remember much of the dialogue. Right? I remember that it was great, and I remember that I loved the guest, or we did something fun, or whatever it was. But I forget a bunch of it, and so I get to do it twice. I get to be in the conversation with Jamie, and like when this show comes out, I'll listen to I'll listen to this just like I listen to Legends Losers. No difference to me, and you'll be in the garden with me, and I'll be going, oh, fuck yeah, that guy Jamie was awesome.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Sarah, she helps me out with Sarah's my girlfriend. She helps me out with my shows and getting them going. And she came out the other day and asked me a question. She goes, hey, do you remember talking to this guy? What was it? And I was like, oh, I forgot. And I feel so bad. I'm like, what did we talk about? And I had to listen to it again. I was like, oh yeah, okay, here we go. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I think we have it's great. And the other thing.
Oh, go ahead.
So go ahead.
I was going to say.
No, you go ahead.
I think we have about 60 shows in the can right now, so we need to kind of catch up on them a little bit. So we're going to do a couple blitzes, I think, and we're going to do like 24 shows in 24 hours. Hopefully, kind of get some creativity going and stuff like that.
What do you mean 24 shows at 24 hours? What does that mean?
So 24 episodes in 24 hours, I'm sorry. So every hour we're going to launch a show. We'll publish a show. So every hour we'll publish this show or episode, then the next hour, next episode, next hour, next episode. Try and get some out there and get some. I did it last year, but I did 8 episodes in 8 hours. And from a downloads perspective, I got more downloads in 2 days than I did the previous year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's fucking awesome. That's a great idea. And did you do that with new shows, or did you relaunch existing shows?
New shows.
Yeah. So you held 8 shows back, and you launched them hour after. Boom,
8,
boom,
9,
boom.
10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, right through the day. And this one we're going to do 24 and then a month later we're going to do it again.
Wow.
Since we have 64 shows in the can, so that way we can get back to our 6 to 8 week publishing schedule again.
That's really cool. Yeah, you just clear everything. That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
The other one, we have a listener named Kim Bolin, and she sent me a note on Facebook, and I don't, I hadn't known her, and she sent me a note on Facebook saying how much she loved Legends and Losers and this and that. She was, very, very sweet of her to let us know. And then she told me something very cool. She said, I gave Legends and Losers to my brother for his birthday.
Oh wow.
And I thought, how fucking cool is that? Because, back in the old days, of course, I might have given you the box set of fucking James Bond movies or the Bourne movies or, the Batman, whatever it is, right? We gave each other DVDs. And I don't know if you remember, you might remember those giant sort of things where that was like, they looked like a big book, and you opened them up and they had all the tape cassettes in them,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so all this stuff. And so we used to give each other box sets of tapes or of, TV shows or whatever. And so I thought, what a great idea. Give Legends and Losers as a birthday present. First of all, it didn't cost you anything. And, what a cool thing. And so, yeah, I just love what you're doing, because what you're doing there is you're sort of creating, if you will, a digital box set that all comes out hour after hour. It's an awesome idea.
There you go. That's what I'll call it, the digital box.
Yeah, it's the digital box set that rolls out. Boom, boom, boom. And what you should do is you should clear your calendar, get yourself a glass of your favorite whatever, and binge on 24 hours. Yeah, I love it.
Fantastic. Yeah, that whole thing about the thing where you open it up and you have all the cassettes in there.
Yeah,
I remember,
that sort of.
Yeah,
right. It was plastic, and the cassettes had to sort of snap into it.
Do you remember back in the day, Carlton Sheets, where he sold his real estate program on TV? Do you remember that guy, Carlton Sheets? Well, Carlton Sheets did this thing, and he got the Carlton Sheets real estate investment, right? Make all this money investing in real estate. And boy, he did those infomercials late at night. And yes, I bought a Carlton Sheets thing where you open it up and it had all these cassettes in there. And this must have been, 80s, 90s, early, I don't remember.
But do you remember the first one of those that I remember, and I think he was selling training, not cassettes, and to the best of my knowledge, he's the founder of what today we understand as infomercials, Tom Vu. Do you remember the Tom Vu ads?
Oh my gosh, where he was on the boat with the girls.
Oh, yeah. I come to America with $1. I invest that $1. Now look at all these girls, right? Or the other one I love was like him in front of the Bentleys and the Rolls Royces, and I don't know which Rolls Royce to drive. Right? It's like, I think he went to jail for tax evasion.
Yeah, he did. He did, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, those ads were awesome. Very, very effective. And in the context of category design, they frame a problem. If you look at, even today, Jamie, if you look at a infomercial, in the beginning, you'll notice it's black and white. And there's a guy with that ominous voice. He says, "Hey, you, it's 3 a.m. Why are you watching a stupid infomercial? You must be fat, lazy, and nobody wants to have sex with you." And then all of a sudden it goes to color and says, "But it doesn't have to be that way. Operators are standing by, and these Ginsu knives, and these Cutco knives, and
But wait, there's more."
Right, and if you always notice, it's always black and white in the beginning. The guy's voice is like this, and then it goes like this, and it's color.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. I started watching one the other day. It was a Facebook ad or something on a video, and these guys are driving around in a really fancy car, and they pulled up to this ritzy house, and he gets out talking about Facebook ads can do this for you and this, and he goes, and all of a sudden a record scratch comes across. He goes, and he stops. He goes, "This isn't my car. That's not my house." I don't have all this. And he kind of got real all of a sudden. You're just like,
I don't know who these ladies in bikinis are. I have no idea. I think we had to pay them.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Holy crap. Well, I wonder if maybe I do have to get to another appointment. Wonder if we can wrap up. But before we go, I wonder if you can just share a little bit about the Play Bigger book, and where we can go to get it. And I tell you, I don't know. There's probably a lot of people out there that'll beat me out for a number one fan, but uh, seriously, thank you to you and your colleagues, co-authors, because that seriously 110% changed our lives, basically, because it's totally changed the way that futures that I want to think of the future. And I mean, talk about lightning strike. We've already taken action. We've already built it out. We got to strike while the iron's hot. I know it's going to get cramped in this niche very, very soon, and that's why it's so important for us to drive on through a different category. And I seriously, man, hats off to you, because it's flipping brilliant what you did there, and
Well,
amazing.
thank you. It's so cool of you to say, and thank you. And I know it sounds corny, and I know it may not sound believable to some people, but really, for most of my professional life, Jamie, I felt crazy, and I still feel crazy a lot of the time. And the reason I wanted to write Play Bigger was, Kevin, our co-author and a genius, absolute genius, Kevin Maney, he calls category design a new lens on business. And when we first started to talk to him about, writing the book, we sort of said, well, do we really have something here? And he said, yeah, you have a whole new lens, and the world deserves to get that lens. And I tried for the better part of 30 years to give that lens away. And I knew that I was operating out of this playbook in my head. And it didn't matter what I did, seminars. It didn't matter when I was a chief marketing officer and people went through it. Some people got it and some people didn't. And the only way we could think of to give the lens to the world was to write a book. And so that's why we wrote the book. And essentially, the reason for wanting to give that lens to the world is I'm somebody for whom, Jamie, entrepreneurship is not a theoretical bullshit discussion. I don't talk about entrepreneurship today because it's the cool thing. I became an entrepreneur at 18 years old. And when I became an entrepreneur, I didn't know the word. And when I first heard the word, I thought it was a highfalutin way to say unemployed. And I sure as fuck didn't become an entrepreneur because it was cool. I got thrown out of school. And I didn't even know at the time I was dyslexic. And so with no education, no relationships, no money, no experience, no fucking nothing, my buddy Jack and I started a company. And so my point is, I think there's two kinds of entrepreneurs, and both of them I love. There are some entrepreneurs that you could think of as big E entrepreneurs. And I spent a lot of my working life with those folks in Silicon Valley. They have an incredible idea, typically around a technology. They get funded by, top tier venture capitalists on Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley. They raise $200 or $300 million. They go public and they're worth $10 billion, and they're Mark Zuckerberg or they're Eric Yuan or they're those guys. Mm-hmm. And I love those guys. And for big E entrepreneurs, the way I think about it is entrepreneurship is a way up for them, to take them from wherever they are to where they want to go, and more importantly, their idea and why they think it could make a difference to the world. I grew up not as one of those, as what you might think of as a small E entrepreneur. I had none of those abilities. There was nobody that was going to give me anything, for certainly financially. And so, and for me, entrepreneurship was a way out, not a way up. Mm. Right? So, listen, I wasn't, dirt poor, but I was going to have a life of manual labor, and my family is a family that struggled, and that's the world that I grew up in. And so for me, it was a way out of a life of struggle. And so to get back to Play Bigger, my co-authors can speak for themselves. I know they have similar motivations than others, but for me, I wanted entrepreneurs to have category design, because whether it's a way out or a way up, entrepreneurship is one of the most important things that happens in our world, in my opinion. And for those of us for whom it's a way out of a life of struggle and to create new opportunity for ourselves, our people, our customers, and ultimately our communities and world. And so what category design is really is, today I describe it as the third lever. So most entrepreneurs believe there's two big levers they can pull to be successful. I build a legendary company / business model, mm-hmm. and I build a legendary product / service. And once I put that legendary product or service into the world's going to get how awesome it is, and ba-boom, and I'll be successful. And the truth is, while that can work, it often fails. And there's a third lever that entrepreneurs typically never even knew existed, and that lever is called category. That is to say, if we teach the world how to think about a problem and a solution, then they're going to be open to buying our solution. Said in a different way, in the world of business, there's too many solutions looking for a problem. And so I wanted to do what I could to give category design to entrepreneurs and innovators and anybody who's trying to design a legendary life as a powerful mechanism for creating or designing their place in the world, just like Muhammad Ali did as an individual and just like Mark Zuckerberg did as an entrepreneur. Every legendary person who stands alone designed a unique place in the world for themselves, whether they did it intuitively, instinctively, or whether they did it deliberately. And so what we try to do in Play Bigger is we call it prosecute the magic triangle, get all three things right: product, company, and category. And if you get all three, it's not to say you're necessarily going to be successful, but to your point, you're trying to create a new category in the chatbot world. You're trying to be a thought leader and get people to think about this stuff in the way that you do. And if you're successful, there will be a whole new market category that emerges, and your business will be way more successful than if you were one of the 4,342 agencies building chatbots for people. Right. And that's the gift that I wanted to give to entrepreneurs, because I want to see more entrepreneurship in our world. More companies die in America right now, this week, than get born. We're at the lowest level of entrepreneurship in U.S. history, according to MIT and Brookings. And the Wall Street Journal says we have a crisis in American entrepreneurship. And I want to try to do my part to make a difference in that. And I think category design materially increases the odds for entrepreneurs.
Yes. I didn't know we were at the lowest point for entrepreneurs. Boy, it sure seems like there's a lot of them out there, but it's
no, they're not. If you Google crisis in American entrepreneurship, you will get a story that was in the Wall Street Journal. I want to say it was in March of 2016. It might have been April, but it was in around that time frame. It was right around, Play Bigger came out in June of 2016, and so it was right around that time frame. And the headline of the article, I might be off a little bit, but the headline of the article says, "The Crisis in American Entrepreneurship." And Jamie, when I saw it, I went, to your point, I live in Santa Cruz, California, right across the over the hill from Silicon Valley. And it's like, what? Everybody and their fucking brother is building a fart app. What do you, come on, everyone's an entrepreneur, right?
Oh, Lord.
But it turns out that's not true. More companies die in America, and we are at the lowest level in recorded history for entrepreneurship. And according to Wall Street Journal, MIT, and Brookings Institute, the millennials are on track to be the least entrepreneurial generation in American history. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But I really have dedicated the back half of my life to trying to make a difference, in this area. This is the area I make a difference. And so I stand here as a product of a lot of fucking help and a lot of fucking coaching, and a lot of people believed in me when nobody should have ever believed in me. And so I just think collectively, those of us who are entrepreneurs, who are business leaders, who are authors, people who give a shit about our world, and particularly have a business acumen, I think we need to do what we can to make a difference to both stimulate new entrepreneurship and cultivate existing success for existing entrepreneurs.
I love it. That's why I think everybody. I wish I would have found this book last June. Seriously, everybody that is in entrepreneurship needs to read. And I'm a big fan. That whole saying, "Leaders are readers." Yes, the Miracle Morning, read that, but 12-week year, that was a big impactful book for me. That changed a lot of the way that I worked, and helped me get some new ideas. Deep Work by Cal Newport was it going? But I'm telling you, this book is by far and away the leader, by far and away, is as far as an impact on me. So, buy this book. Buy this book. It's
Well,
flipping
and hey,
awesome.
Jamie, I'm so stoked you say that. And here's what I'll put on the table. If at some point in your category design journey with your partners and so forth, you want to spend a little bit of time, we could set up a Skype or a Zoom or whatever and do a bit of a Q&A session. I would love to do that with you. I want to see
Holy
you be
crap.
super successful. Yeah, of course, man.
Yeah, I tell you, you blow Peter's mind. Yeah, he's the one. He's the one that it's his fault that we're doing this. Yeah, so he's like, man, play bigger. It's right in the screen every time we're on online, right there. Play bigger. It's right there. Good. I'm telling you, it's a huge impact. Yeah, I'll stop going crazy on it, but it's just want to say thanks for sharing that knowledge because it's something that everybody needs. It's a game changer. Period. Game changer. So thank you.
I know it sounds like bullshit, but it almost makes me want to cry. For a lot of my life, I don't know if you remember that movie with oh, for fuck's sakes, the Die Hard guy, Bruce Willis.
Oh yeah.
The I See Dead People. What was that movie
Oh,
called?
Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense. Thank you. And for most of my life, Jamie, I felt like, well, I see dead people. Like, in other words, I view the world through a category lens. So here's what I believe. Every legendary product or service that you and I love that has made a difference to society and the world exists for one reason and one reason only. A legendary entrepreneur innovator got product, company, and category right. And they taught us to think about things in the way that they did. And when they opened up the world to a whole new way of doing things, all of a sudden, you and I are willing to have a hypodermic needle fucking jammed into our arm. Well, that wasn't intuitively obvious. You and I used dental floss. That sounded like a fuck crazy idea at the time. You and I fly on planes. That sounded et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
If you take a step back for a second and just look around, you go, human beings created that shit. And in the beginning, a lot of that shit seemed stupid. Brian Roberts, the number one healthcare tech investor in the world, according to Fortune magazine, who just came on Legends and Losers. In the book Play Bigger, Brian says things go from non-consensus to consensus fast. So by way of example, my friends at Sequoia backed the Airbnb guys. Well, listen,
Man.
in the beginning, that idea is retarded. What? You want to rent out your blow-up mattress in your shit apartment in San Francisco to perfect strangers to sleep in your house? That's the craziest. When you go in, imagine showing up on Sand Hill Road talking to a 50-year-old, venture capitalist as a young dude who couldn't fucking find anywhere to live in San Francisco and was losing his mind. Said, "Hey, here's the idea for a multi-billion-dollar fucking company." Like, a lot of people said no, and then all of a sudden, there's that line. I don't know if you remember the movie Spinal Tap. There's a fine line between clever and stupid.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, fucking A, went from stupid to genius really fucking fast, right?
Now they just they're the biggest. They took over Zynga offices just recently. I heard.
Yeah, isn't that funny? And so my point is, that's what legendary category design's about. In the beginning, it seems like stupid, but the entrepreneur has an insight and has a point of view and believes vehemently that the world needs to see things the way she does. And that's how Sarah Blakely became, a billionaire with Spanx. She didn't like the way she looked in a pair of white pants, and she went to work. And she was smart enough not to call it a girdle 2.0. She called it a whole new category. She called it shapewear.
Wow.
And wouldn't you like to wear something awesome underneath your dress that, accentuates your shape better? And everything she did was, quote, different. And the rest is history. She's a fucking multi-billionaire today. And I don't know about you, but I got a closet full of fucking Spanx, and they ain't mine. And that's what legendary entrepreneurs do. And so we just, with Play Bigger, we just wanted to try to unpack that. What most people think about when they think about marketing, they make an unconscious choice to live inside of an existing market. My friend and mentor, Bix Bixen, says most people and most companies are living inside of someone else's thinking. Category designers have the courage to have their own point of view, their own thinking, and then the courage to share that thinking with the world. And when it works, ba-boom,
Mm.
Spanx, ba-boom, frozen food, ba-boom, Facebook. Or even at a smaller level, I could tell you stories about how realtors that I know have used these principles to differentiate themselves and create a great realty business, real estate business. It scales up and down from the corner store. And recently, Forbes came out and said if there's a playbook for building the next Google, Facebook, and I forget what the third one they said was, but this book is that book, and I hope that's true, and I hope it's also true for the gal who just opened up the corner store who wants to do something really legendary and differentiate.
Yeah, it is the playbook. It literally will show you what you need to do. It's just brilliant. Yeah, I thank you for writing it.
Anyway, let me know if you guys want to carve out a few minutes to do a Q&A
Yes,
session, and
I'm
I'd
gonna
be
say
happy to
yes
help you
right now.
guys.
Oh my gosh, yes, that would
Yeah,
be
why
an
not?
honor.
Come on,
Heck
man.
yeah. Oh man, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Well, so they can go to legendsandlosers.com. My listeners, I call them the opiners. They can also go to playbigger.com/book.
Yeah, I think they can do that as well. On legendsandlosers.com, there's a whole section on Play Bigger, so you can get that there.
Sweet.
And then there's lots of write-ups of the book. We've been incredibly fortunate that so many people, whether it's sort of official book reviewers or just, there was a guy on Medium. If you have a second, I can pull it up.
Heck yeah.
A couple days ago, who wrote. Let me get it for you. See if this will pull it up on. What's. Yeah, here it is. A guy named Jesse Williams wrote a story on Medium. Why is it not? What's called? What's the buzz? What's all the buzz about category creation? And said some very laudatory things about Play Bigger. And so, people are writing posts on LinkedIn, just random shit is just showing up all over the place, and it just blows me away that it's one thing when a professional reviewer reviews the book and says nice things. That's awesome, of course.
Sure.
But when just an entrepreneur or a regular person in business decides they're going to write on Medium or on LinkedIn or wherever a blog post about this book, and they don't know me or any of the co-authors of Play Bigger. I mean, it's just amazing.
It's insane. Yeah, it's very inspiring. Well, yeah, I gotta say thank you so much for taking time and chatting with me today and blowing my mind. It's been fantastic. It's been a privilege and an honor getting to know you, and I just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing, man, and pretty freaking cool little deal you got going on there.
Which part of it?
Oh, well, everything that you're doing, the podcast and your studio, and you're just it's just welcome to the world of podcasting. It's
Thank you.
Fantastic. I've been doing podcasting for nearly 3 years, and here I am learning all kinds of cool stuff that I can do in my own show, and man,
as I am learning from you, I'm like,
it's fantastic.
What if we did 48 hours of shows?
Yeah, well, man, it's just thank you for spending the time. Yeah,
it's my pleasure, Jamie. It's for better or for worse, it's my life's work, and I'm stoked. Play Bigger is making a difference for you, and Category Designs, making a difference for you guys, and I hope it makes a huge difference for your fans and your listeners. And from the bottom of my heart, what I want for you is to create a legendary category king business that takes 2/3 of the economics of your space and fucking makes a giant difference in the world.
Yep. Thank you. And then we'll come back, and I'll have to come out to Santa Cruz and have an actual beer with you.
That would be great. We got a lot of great beer here. I think of late, speaking of category design, I think there's a law in Santa Cruz now that says every 3 weeks a new, quote, craft beer place needs to open up. This is the new hot category on the West Coast is craft beer, and of course what they call West Coast IPAs. So
Oh yeah.
there are plenty of places we can get a really good draft beer around here now, and actually very short bike ride from my house. So we can just bike along the coast of
Oh
what we like
nice.
to call the Pacific Ocean, and go treat ourselves to some of Santa Cruz's
Oh,
finest craft brews.
good old PCH.
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, is there
Thank you.
anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Be legendary, my friend.
All right, be legendary. Thank you, man. Thank you.
We'll talk again soon, Jamie.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, that was amazing. Yeah, yeah. Seriously, thank you so much for that. This is and by